evening, folks. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This evening we have two agendas we're going to be following. We have our Committee of the Whole agenda, followed by our Council meeting agenda, as well as I'll be entertaining a motion to go into closed session following the Council meeting portion of this evening. With that, we'll start this evening off with a prayer from Councillor Bodner, and that will be followed by the National Anthem by Mr. Joel Longfellow. Councillor Bodner.
Dear Lord, we ask your guidance as we meet here tonight. Help us make wise and thoughtful decisions that will benefit our city and its residents. Amen.
Joel.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel. As always, well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My pleasure as always.
Thanks, Joel. Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no addendum items on this agenda.
Thank you. And members of council, I'll need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Bodner, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Bodner.
Item 14 is I run a business inside Shirks and Shores.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a pecuniary interest on item A in the closed session agenda, as I represent the company that is dealing with the real estate transaction.
Thank you, Councillor. Members of council will now move on to determination of items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll poll 14 for the councillor's conflict.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Councillor Elliott.
Item number 5.
Thank you. Councillor Bodner.
Sorry.
Item 1 and 4.
Further items, members? With none, let me just take a double look here. Members of staff, are there any items that you'd like to see lifted? Mr. Heil?
Worship, did you want to speak at all at this point on the DSBN art committee, or did you want to leave that until a future meeting?
Councillor Kenny, did you want to speak on the DSBN recommendation for this evening? Okay, let's pull that as well. Item 13. Good, thank you, members. We'll now move on to approving the remainder of the items. Kind of a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Desmarais, you know, a seconder. Councillor Danch, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to presentations. I do have one presentation that I'll make at the podium. Members, it's my privilege this morning to present an award, a very special award, to a close friend of both City Hall, members of City Council, City staff, as well as the City of Port Colborne in general, in particular the residents that we represent. And I have to say that it is a privilege because I haven't done this yet this year. Usually this is reserved for, I guess, more important dignitaries than myself. Those being from higher government, as well as other positions that hold office within higher government. But nevertheless, it's been brought down to, I guess, our level with respect to this presentation, and I'm again extremely privileged to be able to do this on behalf of not only the citizens of Port Colborne, but quite frankly the province of Ontario, as well as the government of Canada. With that, members, it is recognition, and I stand before you tonight to give recognition to a Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal Award recipient. And I'm going to read from a letter here to the recipient, that on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, I am pleased to award you the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal, created to mark the 60th anniversary of Her Majesty's accession to the throne. And in granting you this honor, I thank you for your dedicated service to your peers, to your community, and to your country, Canada. The contributions that you have made to our nation are most commendable and deserve our praise and admiration. I wish to convey to you the heartfelt congratulations of your fellow Canadians, to which I add my own. And this is signed by the Governor-General of Canada, and as well on behalf of each and every Canadian. With that, it's my, again, privilege to recognize this evening a former Chief Administrative Officer with the City of Port Colborne from 1993 to 2000. And during that time, he led negotiations with the entire team here in the City of Port Colborne. And I think that was when we started on council as rookies. And to some extent, this individual really allowed us and had patience with, I believe, a new mayor at the time, Mayor Schoen, as well as 5 new councillors, and quite frankly showed a lot of patience with every one of us. And of course continued that with a new mayor in '97, which was myself, and I believe 2 new councillors at the time, Councillor Butters and Councillor Steele, who joined us, I think Councillor Bodner as well, who joined us at the time, 3 new councillors, and of course had to gain even more patience. But with that, worked alongside us to do many things. And I say many things because not all the time does government get involved in the things that this community has. We are somewhat of an anomaly, and I think Mr. Howe found that out when he became the CAO of our community, quickly found that out, that we are somewhat of an anomaly in the way we do business here in the City of Port Colborne. And the way that is we've had the ability to inject a business-type culture within government, something that we strive to do year after year, but it started at that time. And this individual worked and led negotiations on behalf of the city to acquire, for example, outright ownership of our marina, as well as the water around the marina, the bay area, and the lands around the marina, as well as the marina lands. The grain elevator, owned at the time by Transport Canada. The West Side Rail Line, which was on its way out, because as you can recall, they took the rail bridge out, and their intent was to, in fact, take the entire rail system, the short line out, down the west side of the canal, which actually was doing work at the time and still is with our grain elevator, as well as both mills, and now to date, Young Bunzlauer and Casco, as well as the Roseland Center, acquiring the Roseland Center from the board at the time and becoming a city facility. The individual I'm speaking of is again, no stranger to the City of Port Colborne, and that would be, and I'm going to call this individual up right now because I do got a few more words to say about him, would be Mr. Cecil Vincent of the City of Port Colborne. Cecil, come on up. Now, Cecil, as many of you know, has been the city manager, the chief administrative officer, administrator, whatever his title was in those 4 municipalities. I know here in the City of Port Colborne it was CAO, and he's been that for 4 municipalities for a total of 31 years of service with those municipalities. A total of 35 years of service as a municipal administrator, and this year will be receiving his 35-year medal from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, and that's something to be extremely proud of, not only in terms of what he's done in terms of time, but quite frankly, in knowing Cease for the better part of my political career, for what he's been able to accomplish with the teams he's worked with. Cease is a life member of the Newfoundland Association of Municipal Administrators, and of course now he's a recipient of the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. And I do want to read a letter here that came in from CAMA, from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, and this is from the president of CAMA. Dear Cecil, on behalf of the CAMA Board of Directors, congratulations on being awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. CAMA was extremely pleased to submit this nomination on your behalf for your significant contribution to the municipal profession and your community over the years. I am thrilled that your mayor and council will be making this presentation to you at a public meeting. This commemorative medal was created to mark the 2012 celebrations of the 60th anniversary of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's accession to the throne as Queen of Canada. The Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal is a tangible way for Canada to honor Her Majesty for her service to this country. And at the same time, it serves to honor significant contributions and achievements by Canadians such as yourself. Congratulations once again on this prestigious honor. Cecil, once again, it's my privilege to present to you with a plaque that states, by command of Her Majesty the Queen, the Diamond Jubilee Medal is presented to you in commemoration of the 60th anniversary of Her Majesty's accession to the throne and in recognition of your contributions to your country here in Canada. Cecil, congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And with that, Cecil, this is something that you can wear every day. You can go to bed with, you can sleep with, you can take the church with you and go everywhere. Pinned to your body is the medal that comes with that certificate. Congratulations,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
and well deserved.
Thank you very much.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
Want to say anything?
I'm overwhelmed, I'm telling you. I'm not normally speechless, but to be recognized by your peers, which is CAMA, to be allowed to receive it in a public meeting like this is the crowning of a career, and I appreciate it, and I thank you very much. I thank everybody.
Yeah. I got a letter here too for you, Cecil, as well. I'm not sure if you got a copy of this yet.
Yes, I did.
You got a copy of that? Okay, I'm gonna give you the envelope too, Cecil. You know, Cecil, I have to say, that's the first time I've ever seen you speechless. But I'll tell you guys, it's, having worked with Cecil for all these years, it's, as I said earlier, it's a privilege to do it on your behalf, to have the honor to present to him that certificate and that medal, because I tell you, it's well deserved. a lot of the folks out there, although you might read a bit in the paper and you might see a bit on TVCOGECO, you just simply don't know how much CS has worked on your behalf throughout not only Port Colborne but throughout the region of Niagara for the past many years. And again, well earned and well deserved in terms of the presentation that we just made. With that, members, I'm now going to move on to delegations. We do have one delegation here this evening, Mr. Bill Chernish, regarding the Niagara Central Airport and the Niagara Central Airport Commission concerns with the airport's future. And Mr. Chernish wants to take this opportunity to speak to Council about some of the concerns he does have. Mr. Chernish, welcome. It's great to have you out. If you just want to press that gray button and you're good to go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Mayor, members of council, and everyone here in attendance. Appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening on matters regarding the Niagara Central Airport and the Commission. Just a little background on myself. I've flown out of the airport since I was 16 years old, and I've managed and was the chief instructor at a flight school in the United States in Orlando for 3 years, and I currently work for AirTran Airways as a Boeing 737 captain. I've been there for 13 years. My experiences in aviation have afforded me the opportunity to see many successes and a few failures along the way. So that's why I'm here tonight. My intent's not to judge anyone, but to provide council with the opportunity to review the status of the airport and to offer a solution. Transparency in government is so crucial, and it must be addressed with this commission. An airport is as much as a part of a community as a park or a road or a sewer or a soccer field or an arena. And infrastructure is the backbone of the community. So every road is not a toll road. We have to temper this vital asset with the need to produce a self-supporting facility, as has been the stated goal of the Commission. Tonight I'll present an opinion supported by facts surrounding two key issues. One is the lack of governance bylaws for the Commission, and two is the results of the lack of transparency. If not corrected expeditiously, I believe that the airport is certain to fail as a viable airport. We'll have to return it to the federal government if that's the case. And so I ask you to do the correct thing here and give due consideration to a facility that is unquestionably in jeopardy. A brief overview of what I'll present tonight. What the mandate of the Commission is, a brief history. What I see as a deterioration of the services and the facilities, breakdown of the Commission structure, critical decisions that have been made, budget issues, and then moving forward. The mandate of the Commission is simple. It's basically to operate the airport for the continued success of it by for the municipalities, the four municipalities, Port Colborne, Wainfleet, Welland, and Pelham. History of the airport, for those that haven't been around and don't really know when it came about. It started in 1942, constructed during World War II as a training facility. Operated as just a general aviation facility after the war. In 1976, the Welland-Port Colborne Airport Act was enacted by Parliament. The airport was acquired from the federal government by the four municipalities for $38,000. In 2001, an act of Parliament changed the name to the Niagara Central Airport Commission Act. And in 1979, backing it up a little bit, the airport was near failure financially, physically, operationally. In 1980, at the request of Airport Commissioner Jeff Brooks, Bruce McRitchie and the Welland Aero Center took over the operations and successfully managed it for the next 32 years. A lot of things happened. The runways were repaved, a lot of things maintained, services were increased, and the Niagara Central Airport remained a viable facility when so many other facilities have closed over that time period. In 2008, probably the crowning achievement of the airport, the snowbirds performed over the airport. They just don't do that in very many small towns. It's generally reserved for the bigger areas, but one of the main reasons that they came to town was for Dorothy Rungling. She was 99 years old, still actively involved in aviation and at the airport, and they dedicated the show to her. In 2010, the president of COPA Club 149, David Devine, called for a restructuring of the Niagara Central Airport Commission. Nothing was really done about it. In 2011, there was a request for proposal initiated by the commission to hire a new manager and to hire new maintenance people and a new flight school. In 2012, COPA 149 member, and who's now the president, and also the airport maintenance man, Adrian Verberg, donated a mobile home to the Niagara Central Airport Commission. In 2012, COPA president David Devine was hired as the manager. Now he's no longer the president. Just kind of drawing a picture here of what's been happening. In 2012, the Welland Aero Center and Niagara College made preparations for a joint venture for a professional pilot program. There was going to be an investment of $0.5 to $1 million by the Welland Aero Center to have this venture go. In 2012, the Welland Aero Center was evicted from the main hangar. In 2012, also, the joint venture had to be scrapped because of the eviction. Just a bit of a picture there of the snowbirds. That's not actually over Welland, but one of the nicer pictures, and a letter from them to Dorothy Rungling. Deterioration of the facilities and the services. The main building now and offices are vacant. Public restroom facilities are unavailable. There is a Johnny on the spot there for emergencies, I guess. Fuel is available on a limited basis as self-serve, and the Welland Aero Center had continued to operate from their private hangar on a limited basis, trying to honor the commitments they had to their students and maintenance contracts. It's since been padlocked by the commission because of a dispute on terms of a new lease that they couldn't achieve. Aircraft flying at the airport are virtually non-existent. For the most part, it's a dead airport. Fuel sales are down drastically as a result of the very limited activity. A listing of services that were available from 1980 to 2012. And if you look to see what we've got today, not very much available. Things are very limited and mostly not available. The Niagara Central Airport Commission makeup, again, the 4 municipalities. Taxes are paid to the town of Pelham. That's where the airport is located. Again, if it's not operated as an airport, it's returned to the federal government. We can't make a drag strip or something out of it and hope to make money. It just doesn't work like that. The structure is the 4 municipalities support the airport with contributions based on population, and it's governed by an act of parliament. Representation is Welland has 3 reps, Port 2, Pelham 1, and Wainfleet 1. The Secretary-Treasurer is Welland Attorney Bruce Smith. The oversight of the commission, the councils of the 4 participating municipalities, and I believe they are subject to the Municipal Act as a local board. In actual, there really is no oversight. Port Colborne is the only municipality that would hear my concerns. The other 3 municipalities don't believe that they have any authority over the commission. They have a very little support system from engineering planning, financial planning, like any city does. They're basically a group of elected officials. They do a great job doing everything they can, but they just don't have the background or the structural rules. And it's basically trying to have them try and fly an airplane without any instruction, and results are quite predictable. The governance of the airport, the mandate of the commission is to operate the facility as an airport on behalf of the people, and it's governed by the Municipal Act, which requires it to have a set of bylaws. They do not. According to Chair Barb Butters, they've never had it, and according to Bruce Smith, they basically wing it. Direct comments. Due to the lack of the bylaws, the commission's transparency has been obscured, and things is, how do you even achieve a quorum when you don't have a set of bylaws to make that decision? Closed meetings are held without disclosing their nature. Meetings have been held without notice. And just a clarification on this next point, I did say that closed meetings records are destroyed. They are, but it's a procedure that I now understand is normal. So I just wanted to make that clear. The request for proposal selection was compromised by noncompliance with the Municipal Act by not having public participation in the meetings and the process. Noncompliance with the Niagara Central Airport Commission Act has allowed the new building to be erected without the minister's approval, as is required by the Commission Act. Matters of the Commission are being communicated to council members outside of regular and closed meetings, and again, that's not the way things are supposed to be done. Everything the Commission is doing may prove irrelevant by not adhering to the Municipal Act. Critical decisions that have been made most seem to go against conventional thought. A request for proposal was done when it's well known that new aviation ventures are virtually non-existent in this day and age. They're just not sustainable. No viable proposals were really even received, or that we know of, that were to enhance the stated goal of financial self-sustainability. They removed the company who's been successful for 32 years in spite of poor regional economic conditions, high fuel prices, and the events of 9/11 were catastrophic on most small aviation businesses. It came at a loss of 7 jobs. They replaced with a manager that really has no airport management background, which was a requirement of the request for proposal that they put out. So they evicted the current operator. They constructed a new building with significant costs for long-term liabilities such as services, and limited an already tight ramp area with the new building. They created unsupported lease demands that weren't in line with other markets, which resulted in them not being able to come to an agreement for a lease. They're spending money to hire a new manager without any revenues to support them. There's a matter of a $12,000 receivable account that appears nowhere in the audit of 2011. There's possible conflicts of interest to accept a gift of a mobile home from a COPA member and then hire the president of the same COPA 149 group as the manager without even interviewing others that had applied for the position with far superior qualifications that met the request for proposal prerequisites. All of these decisions were made without a properly structured set of bylaws that are done to ensure transparency. Budget issues, a review of the 2011 actuals and 2012 and 13 forecasts. The 2012 aren't available as yet. It appears that reserve funds are being used to supplement day-to-day operations. The council rubber stamps the budgets without even seeing previous year's financial performance or projected operational information. Example, the addition of a new manager, near complete loss of airport services, and the 32-year manager being terminated. Revenue projections for 2012 and 13 are not realistic, and they won't be achieved. They projected 116,000. They'll probably bring in around 48 to 50,000. So it's a huge loss of $67,000 that has to be supplemented somewhere. Same for 2013. They've lowered their expectations, but there's been nothing new there to add to bring those numbers up. The Commission submitted a budget for 2012 that were purely speculative, and these results will show that they're failed when the statements come out. Expenses have far exceeded revenues for 2012 and will have to be reconciled with reserve funds or loans. The Commission had all of 2012 to amend their budget to council, knowing that a shortfall was imminent, but there was material changes in management, but nothing was ever done. They submitted a 2013 budget without detailing their 2012 revenue shortage. It should be a big thing that the council should be knowing about. They're projecting huge increases again for 2013 without divulging to council that these numbers are purely hypothetical at best, and there's no substantial source for new revenue that's been confirmed. It's all being done all over again this year, and nobody really seems to care, and I guess that's why I'm here. A new direction is needed. Number one thing, cooperation with all parties involved. Without that, nothing will ever happen. In the short term, they need to get the Welland Aero Center or somebody else that's reliable back up and operating immediately, because without a flight school and a maintenance facility and all of the other things that go around with it, the airport's doomed. It needs to happen now, not 6 months or 2 years from now. There were no viable entities willing to even bid for this request for proposal. It's a very telling sign of the state of this economy and general aviation. Potential leads just don't cut it for getting this place back on track. They need to develop a set of bylaws to govern the commission. In the long term, restructuring really needs to be gained, or need to be done to gain the knowledge needed moving forward. They need to implement a plan that would bring in the Niagara Central Airport Commission Act to new standards. And one of the biggest things they need to do is to work diligently to get Niagara College on board with this program. It was the best thing that could have happened to this airport, and it really was squandered. It needs to be brought back to life somehow. In summary, you've got a commission that appears to be operating in direct contravention with the Municipal Act. They hired a new manager with no money to pay him. Forecasted revenue streams are grossly exaggerated, spending reserves for daily operations. Essential services at the airport have been severely restricted. Building a new headquarters with the main building now sitting empty makes no sense. You've got an airport that basically has no traffic. Fuel sales have decreased drastically, and all because of a lack of oversight and professional support. A well-thought-out major plan to save the airport was the partnership with Niagara College and Welland Aero Center, and it just didn't happen. It really needed to keep this place going. The venture was fully funded privately. Niagara College didn't have to put in a cent. It would have had a financial impact to the cities in the millions of dollars, and probably would have been at least 20 to 30 jobs. It was lost due to the Commission's expectations of lease revenues far exceeding market conditions. Again, my opinion. Results of an outdated and inefficient commission structure are evident. All adds up to a loss of a facility and a huge asset if nothing is done about it. In closing, I ask you to consider the facts. Don't take my word for it. Go to your constituents, go to the airport, review the acts, and above all, I beg you to start a process that's going to start the healing and get the airport moving in the correct direction again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chernish. With that, members of council, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Demeray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Chernish. I'd like to thank you for coming tonight and bringing us this information. And I'd like to move that we receive this presentation for information.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder to that recommendation, please? Councillor Bodnar, any further questions or comments? Members? Councillor Butters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Mr. Chernish for coming. I want to extend to you an invitation to do this presentation for the Commission as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butters. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Bodnar?
Just one. Will we find out whether the commission really is under the Municipal Act? Is that something, there's been suggestions that maybe it is. I don't know. Do we have any clarification of that, or
Mr. Howe?
will we have?
Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, there is separate legislation. We can ask for a legal opinion in respect of the rules that do apply to the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Further questions? Councillor Bodnar?
No. Just a thought. It would be a shame to see that airport go down. I was fortunate to take lessons there in the late 60s. Never got as far as my friend Jack over here. Decided to get married, and I couldn't afford to take the lessons anymore. So, anyways, I certainly would like to see that airport keep going, and I think it would be a plus for the communities. I know Councillor Butters is working hard on that, along with the members of the commission, and I just hope that things can come together and everything works out in the end.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar. Further questions, comments, members? Pardon me? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Further questions, comments, members? Questions from staff? Comments? Mr. Chernish, thank you very much for your time tonight. Truly appreciate it. Thank you. Members, we're now going to move on to the Regional Council's report. I see Councillor Barrick in the back with a guest, a special guest this evening. David, if you want to bring Diane up with you, you're more than welcome. Councillor Barrick, welcome.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, this council has seen me here before, giving an update on the economic development transition here at the region. People have said that the previous incarnation of economic development was drifting, hence the need for change. And I believe now we're more focused than ever, primarily due to one person. Although council sets the structure, Our current Director of Economic Development, who joined us earlier this year, has really focused our economic development team. And she's here this evening. She's agreed to join us. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity for you folks to meet her and as well for the public to recognize what their regional tax dollars are doing at the regional economic development level. I'm very impressed, I must say, Mr. Mayor. She's going to speak about the economic growth strategy for the next 2 years because it really has a focus on tangible results, sector-specific. There's actions for each item. There's expected outcomes. There's performance measures. Now, I won't get into great detail, but I must say that, again, I'm deeply impressed. And I believe you will be too. So Diane Simcevic is the new Director of Economic Development for the region. We're lucky to have her, quite frankly. She was the Executive Director of Regional Economic Development for the province of Alberta. Before that, she worked for the federal government as well as a private sector experience as well. So with that, I'll let her make her presentation. Diane, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. And Ms. Simcevic, welcome. Welcome to our chamber. Your first time here?
It certainly is, yes. Thank you, Mayor Badaway, and
have you down here.
Councillor Barrick, and members of the Port Colborne Council. I really appreciate you giving me time on your agenda this evening to talk about our draft economic development strategy for the region. Okay, how does this work if I want to put I don't know, I thought the presentation was uploaded.
You want to help her out there, Bob?
But if not, I'll just chat with you.
No.
How's that?
It's supposed to be uploaded on there, yeah.
Basically,
Can you find it? Go ahead. There you go, Diane, you're all set.
perfect, thank you. Yeah, so this strategy is really the result of a number of consultations, of some research that we did, and it's also a result of common sense. What we did was really build on the existing strengths that we identified in the region because we wanted to see if we could achieve some faster results. The economic growth strategy that I'll be talking about this evening really is going to also position us for a deeper, longer-term strategy and guide that we'll start later on. The presentation I'm giving you tonight is still draft, but it's really close to representing what it is we want to implement for the region. There's still time for input. The strategy was meant to emphasize actions. It's not an exhaustive list, and it's not meant to limit our involvement with good ideas. We know that good ideas are going to come forward to us all the time, and we want to be open to them and flexible enough that we can always accommodate some new thinking. Instead, it's a guide with a number of initiatives that will, if well implemented, have the potential to directly contribute to jobs and growth. And each one, as Councillor Barrick mentioned, has performance measures attached to it. So as I said, okay. This may just be annoying. Thank you. As I said, we worked through we held three workshops over November and January where we met with more than 50 business leaders, community stakeholders, public officials, elected officials, and we asked them what they wanted for the future of Niagara, and we also asked them to identify what they thought some of the specific competitive strengths and weaknesses of the area were, so that we could start to see if we can build some real strong business cases for investing and growing your business in Niagara. We continued, we held a second session in January with more than 60 participants, where we went through a prioritization exercise and asked the community for their input as to what actions they believed would have the best possibility for immediate impact. And then we worked with a consultant, Millier Dickinson Blay, and our internal staff to identify and validate that competitive position and opportunities. Thanks. So really, I wanted to paint a picture for you. This came out of our consultations, and we asked them, what's your vision for Niagara? And really, what we were told is that people see the possibility and the future of Niagara being a prosperous region and an economic leader where prosperity is matched by our quality of life. And we want to be a magnet for talent and creativity. We want to be a place where business and personal goals are achieved, where opportunity matches the skills, where innovation can take root and research can become reality. We want to see a Niagara where civic, business, and political leaders work together for common economic goals and where we can take full advantage of our location. And we want to build on our successes in Niagara and celebrate them. So when we look at the world, we don't exist in a bubble. And global trends matter. They really do affect, and as every one of you here knows, we are affected by what happens in the world around us. We know that global resources are under pressure right now, and that's not only from a cost basis, but also an availability and sustainability basis. And that's everything from water to energy, where we seem to go through peaks and lulls, but ultimately, these resources are under pressure, and they're going to affect where businesses choose to locate in the future. We know we're in a truly global economy these days, and I know everyone has heard about it ad nauseum, but that global economy, that shift to Asia and to the emerging economies, also means new sources of foreign direct investment, new sources of innovation, and new sources of talent for us. We've seen a globalization of services. We've seen falling trade barriers and an emerging middle class, particularly in this developing world, which means many, many millions more new consumers who are demanding quality and who are also demanding better wages in their own country. We're seeing demographic shifts, not only an aging demographic in the developed world, but also the emerging economies where we see strong educational components and rising wages. And we're also seeing global migration. We're seeing shifts in how goods are produced, more towards automation, robotics. There's a buzzword now called reshoring, which many of you may have heard of, which is starting to see a trend of some manufacturing coming back to North America and to Europe for issues of quality, for issues of high knowledge. So the world is shifting in an interesting new way where manufacturing seems to look at, on one side, high knowledge, high productivity as your competitive advantage, and on the other side, low input costs. And we know in the future where we want to be positioned. We're not going to be the lowest cost providers. We're not going to be the location where high volume commodity manufacturers locate. We just can't compete with some of the emerging economies, and there will always continue to be new economic players coming on the market. If China becomes too expensive, there's always Vietnam. If Vietnam becomes too expensive, there's always Nigeria. There's always another economy. So we need to differentiate, as our neighbors are doing right across North America and Europe, on high quality, high skills, high knowledge. Okay, that's the right one. So we chose to focus our economic strategy on 4 key sectors. Why these sectors? Well, they came through with a consultation, and they also came through with our validation that these are sectors where we have some real competitive advantages that we can work towards and we can build on. We've chosen manufacturing. We have new incentives coming on with the gateway economic zone and non-gateway economic lands that will help to make our employment lands more competitive in the marketplace. We know that there's a shift towards high-quality component demands, and we know that the manufacturing in Niagara has really taken some hits over the last few years, but we also know there's still 980-plus companies in Niagara manufacturing goods for the marketplace, and many of them are doing quite well. They're starting to reemerge. They're telling us that they want to hire, they want to expand, and they're doing that because they've learned to be nimble in the marketplace. We want more of those kinds of companies. We want to show the world how we can build on that cluster that's emerging, and that they can also make a good business case for being in Niagara. We have a land base that's although it's limited, it's still pretty rare in the Greater Toronto Area, and we should be able to build on that. And we have a market proximity both to the U.S. and to Toronto. We are looking at the tourism sector not because of visitor attraction. We were told by our council we're not in the business of visitor attraction, but we're looking at how can we help to develop product and infrastructure that's going to support the tourism industry. And we're looking at agribusiness. How can we build on some of those unique locational advantages and niche industries? Can we explore opportunities for crop-based manufacturing, such as biopharmaceutical ingredients manufacture, functional foods, and specialty food products? And we're looking at the transportation and logistics sector, which isn't one that we've traditionally focused on here, but it's a sector where we have a number of multimodal assets, and we have some location and cost advantages. It's less established for us, but it's really important as a supply chain component for some of the other key sectors that we want to work with. So we want to focus on where can we add value, where can we help to put together the pieces and understand our assets so that we can attract more businesses into this industry. When we looked at the sectors, we looked at 3 areas for action, and we called the first one getting the conditions right. And that's really a set of actions. Most of them are longer term. They don't fit my 2-year time frame, but they're really important for the long-term success of industry in the region. And getting the conditions right includes an emphasis on high-quality information. We're going to implement initiatives such as benchmarking Niagara so that we really have the facts when we go out to the world and tell them why it's good business for them to do business in Niagara. We're going to develop business profiles. We're going to develop asset maps and business cases, strong business-focused information to help businesses understand why they need to look at Niagara in more detail. We'll also look at making sure that Niagara has a competitive cost structure, robust infrastructure, and strong partnerships. The second area we call helping our businesses succeed, and that's really what you know as business retention and expansion. It's primarily in regions fortunate like Port Colborne to have their own economic development offices. That's been a large focus of their work, but there are pieces that we can pull together across the region to help to support some of our key industries going forward and provide tools that can be implemented at the local community level as well. And then finally, attracting new investment. So building and using evidence to invite the world to our door. And everything that we do needs to be anchored in fact and in demand. And so we need to be able to recognize the signposts as we go forward on initiatives and say, this isn't working, so let's move on to something that will work. So our 2-year action plan has 19 initiatives in them. Some of them are multi-part initiatives, and I'm just going to highlight a few just to show you what the breadth of the activities that we're contemplating. So this is the only slide, the only area where I'm kind of lumping all of our initiatives, and that's the getting the conditions right. Most of them, as I said, are beyond 2 years, and many of them are somewhat outside our control. So if we need significant federal provincial agreement, for example, to look at expanding highways, an east-west corridor, or getting GO Transit into the region, that is not something that we can act on our own. We can advocate, we can build the case for it, we can get the business coalitions together, but in the end, there are federal and provincial budget demands and other priorities that will limit what we can do by ourselves. Doesn't mean it's not important, but even if we were to get approval today from the province or from the federal government to go ahead with some of these initiatives, they would not be ready in time to create jobs, to give us jobs in the near term. These are longer term initiatives. But we'll still continue to support them. We'll support advocacy to reduce industry input costs, and that includes power rates, which our industry is telling us loud and clear, particularly the large power users, that the rates in the province are not sustainable and are contributing to their costs being higher than the market will bear for them. We'll look at some high-speed telecommunications infrastructure gaps and opportunities. The things that we will lead, we'll profile Niagara businesses. And we'll also develop tools to support labor attraction, work with the Workforce Planning Board and with others, but a lot of businesses are telling us they have problems attracting the right type of labor, or getting the right type of skill sets. So there are things that we can do that other jurisdictions do to work directly with businesses to be their partner as they go out and recruit, to help to demonstrate the benefits of living in Niagara. And if we can provide some of that to companies early on, this will help them to be more successful in getting the right people that they need to expand. And we can also work with them as they work with the college and universities to make sure that the skills that are being provided either through training or retraining are actually the skills that are needed in the marketplace. And we'll leverage all of the existing agencies. We want to work with our partners. We're not going to be able to do all of this stuff alone. All of it has to be done in partnership. So our performance measures, in this particular category only, there's really in the 2 years we're looking for signposts. We're looking for decreased time for development. And we know that at the region we have a big part to play in debottlenecking the development process. We want to see some reduced job vacancies and perhaps even some infrastructure investments announced. The next item is a Niagara Manufacturing Innovation Network. This came up very, very strongly during our consultation, and we know that this is something we'll develop in partnership with a number of different partnerships, both the Niagara Industry Association, our economic development partners in each local municipality, with the college, with the university. Basically, it's to look at something like Kitchener has, to develop an innovation network that links manufacturers together to help them solve their production problems. And it builds on assets and initiatives that are already under development at Niagara College through Innovate Niagara and others. This one, performance measures, we expect to see business growth in employees and profitability as reported by our manufacturers themselves over the next 2 years. I want to get at measures where companies tell us that the services they get from us and the types of things we're doing make a difference to their bottom lines. I want to look at a no wrong window approach. And this one, really the intent is to improve business access to services and support for business retention and expansion. And basically what it is a formalized approach to sharing information and intelligence across the region. So we know we have strong partners throughout the region. Again, whether it's local EDOs or the Community Futures offices or the Business Development Bank or Chambers of Commerce, there are a lot of different places that businesses go to get services and supports. We know there are ways to pull all that together so that if a business goes to any one of our partners, they have access to the same information, to the same services, to the same programs as if they were to go anywhere else. So we'll build on a portal that Innovate Niagara has started to put together for the innovation and incubation sector. So they've already started to do this, and this is basically a way to say that no matter where you are across the region, we're going to provide you with the high quality information and intelligence that you need at the time that you need it. It means that we'll have to work with federal partners, provincial partners, because some of what we're being asked about is trade opportunities, it's partnering opportunities, it might be sources of financing, but all of those pieces come together, and we'll look at putting a formal name around it. We're looking at doing an agri-brand pilot project, and the intent is to increase market penetration of Niagara products and growth of specialty food and beverage, the food and beverage sector in Niagara. So we heard when we talked to companies about difficulties in getting specialty products into the distribution chains, which can be very hard to penetrate. So we're looking at, is there a way to brand Niagara Quality, work together, develop a co-op, which would have to be business-led, to help to penetrate and help to grow awareness of Niagara Quality and Niagara Innovation on the food and beverage side. And we really are looking at performance measures such as the number of entrepreneurs who participate in this project. If we don't get entrepreneurs participating, we don't do it. We look at success in penetrating the Greater Toronto Area, the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and other markets as well. How much awareness have we created of our brand, the number of jobs that have been created because of this awareness and because of this, this enhanced access. We're looking at supporting attraction of an event of global significance. The one that's been floating in the air right now is Flora Niagara, or Flora 2017. But the intent is really to use an event of global significance to highlight Niagara, to raise awareness of Niagara as an important center in key business sectors, and to create or leverage additional tourism assets in the region. Again, as I said in the beginning, my job isn't visitor attraction. My job is business development. And can we, through a major event, start to raise awareness of Niagara as a center of importance in key areas, particularly in the agribusiness center? Can we build an industry conference and trade show around growing under glass? Can we build an event that showcases Niagara and Guelph, because federal and provincial governments have to be involved in this, but showcases us as a real area for developing new biopharmaceuticals, finding new uses for the kinds of crops and flowers that we grow here, doing something on the horticultural industry. Again, all of this stuff needs champions. No champions, we can't go forward. We're looking at an investment rapid response partnership. I like buzzwords, and that's why I put titles on everything. And the intent is to increase new business investment in Niagara. So this is really the, kind of $10 word for a very simple concept, which means we've got to get all of the players in Niagara who bring some information or some asset that could help to convince potential investors that this is where they want to locate. We want to bring them together. Other jurisdictions do that well. They have partnerships. We want to see partnerships with our infrastructure asset holders, with CN and CP, with the St. Lawrence Seaway, with trucking companies. We want to see them with customs brokers, with banks, with chambers of commerce, with local municipalities, all of us working together on a kind of a SWAT team when we know we've got an investor coming in, so that we leave them at the end of the day with no question unanswered. And they can go away knowing that we've got a community that's coming together to support their investment, and that will make a success of it if they invest here. Hard to do? Yeah. It's kind of difficult to do. It's difficult to do in any community, but I believe that we have the assets here that can get it done. And our performance measures are simple. We want to see new key contacts developed and partnerships formed, and we believe that using this kind of an approach, we will see increased investment, we'll see increased employment and assessment, and we'll see reduction in time to develop new products. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is a business attraction toolkit, and this again is for investment attraction. The intent is to develop business cases for key investment targets, highlighting our value proposition, creating marketing materials, developing those lead generation and investment attraction initiatives that are going to help us to identify high potential targets and interest them in coming here to Niagara. We need to raise global and national, even local awareness of the benefits of investing in Niagara. And our 2-year signposts are going to be a number of investment inquiries, number of qualified leads in development. And with that, I'll leave you tonight, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Simsevek. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Elliott, with a big smile on his face.
With a really big smile on my face. We've had the book, they provided your book for about an hour. And I'm just leafing through it, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm assuming that the silo that was economic development at the region just got blown up and is a completely new sphere now. I actually received an email earlier today, which even got me more excited because it was from, I'll just get to it in 1 second. It was from our Chamber of Commerce. And what it said was, the region appoints community leaders to Economic Development Advisory Panel, of which you sit. And when you take a look at where the appointees came from, business owners, Chamber of Commerce, finance, incubation, industry association, post-secondary, real estate, trade union, municipalities, CAO, Municipality Economic Development, Niagara Region staff, and Niagara Region Council. It incorporates a cross-section of that which is Niagara, which I don't think has ever been implemented before. So I congratulate you on that. At the first, I really like to see the way that this is laid out, in that you have your action, your expected outcomes, and your performance measures. And what excites me about that is basically this is something that you may see more often than not in the private sector, not in municipal and regional government, is the ability to set your outcome and then measure it later on, which is really something I think that more and more of this should happen. I'd really like to take a look at this for our own use too in our municipality. I was always told that the more you measure, the better you get. And it just seems that that you're on the right track and you hit a home run with that. And I just want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Further questions or comments, members? Stephen, any questions or comments? You're good? Just a couple comments I have to make, and it's not going to be different than I made the other night, Diane. Well done. You and your team really came forward with a very robust and dynamic plan here. But what I wanted to do is take this opportunity, because those that are watching on COGECO probably heard a lot of information today from you, and the ultimate question, or the obvious question, may be, well, what does that do for South Niagara or the city of Port Colborne? And I do want to take this opportunity to take the time to articulate what, in fact, and for members of council as well, what Diane's plan of action for the next 2 years does for the city of Port Colborne. And I think she nailed it right on the head when she said getting the conditions right. It's something that we've been working on with Stephen for the past few years with respect to, and Dan, and your staff, Dan, with respect to putting and getting the conditions right, community improvement plans, different opportunities for our private sector to get involved in lakefront, canal front, rail front, road front lands, by creating RON, the new economic development strategy with respect to the new industrial lands. But again, it goes back to that getting the conditions right. With respect to a lot of the discussion that we had here in the past few months, for example, solidifying the Southwestern Ontario Development Fund, that resolution came out of this council. And this council then passed it on to the region. The province of Ontario then came back and made a decision based on the support of all 12 municipalities, including the region, that in fact it would be appropriate to offer or make Niagara part of the Southwestern Ontario Development Fund. And now the question is what's available for Niagara, and with that, the dialogue and ideas for successful applications will in fact come from a one-stop shop approach at the region, working with NEDCO and of course the different departments throughout the region. Regional marketing being integrated with provincial marketing packages, including all sectors, both the private and public sectors, is appropriate. Solidifying the Ministry of Economic Development and Industry, now back to trade, as far as I found out today with the new cabinet shuffle. They are now back to MEDT versus MEDI. And working with us to host quarterly Niagara FAM sessions at their trade center in Toronto, introducing Niagara to not only the Toronto investment market, but also the world investment market, utilizing the resources through MEDT, the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade. to meet or meeting of all regional and local economic development staff with the Ministry of Economic Development staff in lead generation, and with their unit, or lead generation unit, and of course advanced manufacturing branch, something, Stephen, you're on quite a bit onto with respect to your due diligence, but now with Diane, you and your team, how, again, I'll use that word robust again, how more robust that effort will be. Working with the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transportation in terms of a long-term vision for goods movement, multimodal transportation strategy as per the regional report, members of council, that I distributed to you a few weeks ago, which was PW 83 2012. The Ministry of Transportation, once again, with a continued push for economic logistics and goods movement corridor vision, which once again I passed on to you for your information at a past meeting. The continued push for the Atlantic Gateway Access Vision, which includes the Continental One from Miami into Niagara, and of course on to the GTA. Diane, you mentioned it, partner in moving forward with the South Niagara East-West Arterial Road. That's a capital project that of course has great economic development potential for at least not only Niagara but South Niagara. The push for the Mid-Peninsula Corridor and ensuring that that gets done in our lifetime versus 4 to 5 generations from now. Ensuring that those incentives are in place. Again, setting the groundwork, getting the conditions right, the gateway incentive. Diana, you've been a part of, as well as the CIPs that are part of that gateway incentive and part of all the different municipalities throughout the region of Niagara. And as you said, Diane, is the bottom line. That's what counts here, is the bottom line for the private sector. Again, getting the conditions right, setting the groundwork for a better culture and a better environment for our private sector. So with that, and many other initiatives that I know Stephen, working with Diane and your team, as well as we're all a part of. Another example, members of council, that I wanted to throw out there, something that you may take for granted, or the private sector may, well, not take for granted, but wish for, is a Niagara-specific hydro rate. Why do we not have a Niagara-specific hydro rate? This is where the production is. This is where the actual source for a hydro is here in Niagara. Why do we not have a hydro-specific hydro rate for those here in Niagara versus other jurisdictions throughout the province of Ontario, if not the country of Canada, where the source is not available? They have this available in New York State. If you just Google it, it's there. So it's not rocket science. It's not like reinventing the wheel. But it's, with Diane and her team, it's imperative that her, on behalf of the entire region, with her team and with the new board, ensure that that message gets out loud and clear to the province with respect to a Niagara-specific hydro rate. So these are some examples how it pertains to Port Colborne and the southern part of the region, but ultimately how we, as Niagara, move together forward as a Team Niagara approach, so that the benefits not only for the south part of Niagara, but for the entire region. So once again, with that, Diane stated, and I'm trying to bring it down to our part of the world versus the macro vision of Niagara, so that those folks watching on COGECO as well as those here in the chamber understand the great work that you're doing, and most importantly, the positive impacts that you are and you're going to have working with Stephen, with our Economic Development Office and our staff and our team here, those positive impacts that are going to be passed down to this level of government here in the city of Port Colborne. So with that, job well done. Thanks, Dan. Thank you, Councillor Barrick. Before, David, you take off from the podium, members of council, any questions or comments to the regional councillor? Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Can you look into something I just discovered yesterday? At the end of Miller Road, where it meets, is that Dones Ridge? I think it is right at the end of Miller, Dones Ridge. The region put up a nice new sign saying Miller Street. The only Miller Street, I think, when you look in the map books, is in Toronto. So anyways, it should be changed to Miller Road in case someone's confused as to, unless something has changed, but I don't think it has. So if you could just get that kind of change, that'd be nice.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Bonner for raising that. If you can send me a quick email noting that exact signpost, I'll forward it on to the appropriate folks at Public Works at the region. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I did want to mention, just regarding the report that Ms. Simcevic just mentioned, I think you know as well as the councillors in this room that businesses in Niagara have been waiting years for this report. And as a former chamber president myself and entrepreneur dealing with industry associations, home builder associations, developers, et cetera, I know that they appreciate it, and I appreciate it, and certainly the momentum will continue to move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. With no further questions or comments to the regional councillor? Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. And Diane, once again, thank you for your time this evening. Appreciate it. Members of council, new business, councillors' items. With none, members of staff. Oh, Councillor Bodner.
Just like to bring something up. Councillor Butters and I received an email after the last snowstorm about the excessive amount of snowmobiles on our trail. And in the one particular area in Sharkston, people live very close to that trail. And I guess they were coming by 11 at a time for a good part of the night. Anyways, I know it's something that is very hard to control and very hard to police, but you know, it certainly is, does cause some considerable, well, keeps people awake at night. So if we could just note that, and if there is anything we can do about it, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further new business, councillors' items. Members of staff, any updates? Harry, we've got a big weekend coming up.
Through your worship, where do I start? Well, I think everything's in place as far as the community celebration. And I'd like to announce that we're going to certainly have an exciting opportunity for the community when they first come in. And as I've heard from other staff and people who've had the opportunity to go in there, the wow factor is certainly going to be an amazing experience. I don't want to touch on too much, but we do have the literature that's coming out. I think the town page that's coming out shortly will highlight quite a bit of information as to what's going to happen this weekend.
Thank you, Harry, and for all those folks watching on COGECO and the capacity crowd that we have this evening in the gallery, may I suggest you all take part in the many activities that are going to be happening here in the city of Port Colborne over the course of the weekend. With Sports Fest over the weekend, starting on Thursday, Friday with the Mayor's Cup, leading into the weekend with a whole slew of different activities at many different destinations throughout the city. Over at the Valley Health and Wellness Center, our grand opening and the community celebration beginning at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and of course running the entire weekend over there. And as well, we're having the last skate over at the West Side Arena. By all means, it is not going to be on Monday. It's not going to be a boring weekend, and I really encourage a lot of the folks out there to come on out and take full advantage of all the facilities and all the activities and events that are happening throughout the city of Port Colborne. For any information, just go online to the City of Port Colborne's website, www.portcolborne.ca, and by all means, we'd love to see you out at some of these festivities, as well as celebrating Family Day as well, and finally the opening of our brand new facility, which I'm sure each and every individual that steps into that facility will be extremely proud of, because quite frankly, it's you that built it, you the community for the community, and we look forward to taking full advantage of that facility. So with that, and no other new business, we'll now move on to the adoption of the minutes. I do have 3 sets of minutes here, and I'll do them in block if you don't mind, members. The minutes of the second meeting special of the Committee of the Whole dated January 21st, 2013, as well as the minutes of the third meeting special Committee of the Whole dated January 22nd, 2013, and finally the minutes of the fourth meeting regular of Committee of the Whole dated January 28th, 2013. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny. Councillor Desmarais. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to the items requiring a separate discussion, members. As lifted by yourselves, we're going to start off with item 1. Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Department of Chief Administrative Officers, Human Resources Division, report number 2013-01, subject: zero tolerance to smoking, consumption of alcohol, and illicit substances within city-operated arenas and dressing rooms of the Vale Health and Wellness Center. And the recommendation is that Council approves the policy of zero tolerance to smoking, consumption of alcohol, and illicit substances within city-operated arenas and dressing rooms of the Vale Health and Wellness Center.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Butters, questions or comments? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the CAO. I bring this up as information to people that will be using the Vale Health and Wellness Center. And I just wanted to get an opinion from you. Are we going to enforce this? Is this something we're serious about? Over the years, although we've had policies in place that may not have been enforced to hopefully the same degree it will be in the new center. I'd just like comments on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Howe?
Your worship, our intention is to enforce this policy as approved by council without discrimination.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Councillor? That's fine. Further comments or questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Item 4, Councillor Bodnar.
Mr. Mayor, Department of Engineering and Operations, Engineering Division Report Number 2013-4, subject Point Avenue Marsh Municipal Drain. A, that council accepts this report as information, and B, that staff, in collaboration with staff of the town of Fort Erie, be directed to prepare an RFP and proceed with the consultant selection process for the preparation of a new engineer's report for the Point Avenue Marsh Municipal Drain under Section 4 and 78, Chapter D, .17 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, for council's consideration.
Thank you, Councillor. A seconder to that, please. Councillor Butters. Questions, comments? Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope everyone had a good chance to look over this. It's a lengthy report, but it really gives you some indication that this may not be a real smooth process and will take some time. I know that it makes reference to the same, sorry, I don't have the page here, but it makes reference to the same way that was used on the Zavitz drain and on the, sorry, I can't remember the other one, but, you know, there was problems on that drain, but the same, there's going to be environmental problems. This is quite an extensive drainage system that Fort and Fort Erie will work on together. And so anyone that is affected by this, and there are people that have flooding problems because of this, I hope they have patience, but the important thing is that the process will be started, and as you can see, the mistakes made years ago, hopefully they will be corrected, and this will be a very successful drain when it finally gets built.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to item 5. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Department of Engineering and Operations, Public Works and Parks Division, report number 2013-5, subject pole barn TA Land End Complex. Recommendation that the Council of the City of Port Colborne award the proposal of the design and build of a pole barn at TA Land End Complex to King Contractors Niagara Limited for the total price of $38,640, and that in addition to the funds allocated in the 2012 capital budget, that funds totaling $140 be found in construction economies and a contract bylaw whereby the contractor enters into a contract agreement with the city be prepared.
Thank you, Councillor. Have a seconder to that, please. Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess the only comment I have is we get 5 bids. 4 bids are over $60,000 within 2 or 3% of each other, and 1 bid comes in 33% less than everybody else. And I guess I left me scratching my head because I'm trying to figure out how 4 qualified contractors could outbid basically the same price, and 1 guy come in so low. And I'm just worried that, are we getting the same quality that the other 4 bid on? Or this just seems, the low bid just seems to be out of the norm of the other 4. And I'm just wondering how 1 bid could be so much lower than the other 4 that we received.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We don't have any concerns with this bid. It's right on the estimate of $38,500, which we put in for it. I think what you're seeing here with the prices are the status of the market at the current time. in the construction business. Having talked to one of the contractors who's not the low bidder here, they're very busy with some Board of Education work that has to be done in the next 3 months. This particular project is time sensitive. It has to be done right away. We want to have this facility available for us in the spring to store the equipment that's needed at the Valet Center, at the complex. So this contractor, he's done work at 76 Main Street. He did the work here at City Hall. We're very happy with the quality of the work he's done in the past. If it were $20,000 below our estimate, I would share the same concern, but it's on the estimate. So we're satisfied with this price. We don't see any abnormalities of what he's pricing here, and we're recommending that go forward on that basis.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Ron. Was there anything different in the bids? I guess what my problem is when you see 4 of them all at the same price and then one so much lower, I'm kind of thinking, like, was it manpower that was more expensive? Is it materials that was more expensive? Did they bid the same quality of construction materials? Everything was even throughout? Because it just, when you take a look at it, I'm going like, okay, something looks wrong with this, and it just doesn't make sense that, like I say, that 4 are so much more and one is so far below.
Mr. Hanson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's a very simple structure. It's a 24 by 20 unheated storage barn. There's really nothing to it. So factor-wise, the only thing you can attribute to that, the materials are the same for all the bidders. The only thing you attribute to it is being able to do it in a very timely manner and get it done, have the force available. If they're working on other projects, they're going to have to bring other people in, and there's an additional cost to that. So as I said, very simple structure, and we're satisfied with this price and this contractor.
That's fine. Further questions, comments? Ron, quick question. Where's it going?
Mr. Mayor, this goes directly south of the new Valet Center, and if you can picture east of the soccer building, there's a crescent driveway, and it's just east of that, just off the driveway on the south side of the Valet Center. So it'll be just on the edge of that woodlot that's there, but not in the woodlot.
Great, thank you. Members, your pleasure to the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. We're now going to move on to item 13. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. I sent this memo off to members of council, and by their silence, I guess I was thinking that they all agreed with me. So, because the only response I got back from was you.
Who's you?
You. That's the only one that responded.
I wasn't sure where you were looking.
So I just, I guess, review for everyone's. It's been a very interesting time spent with members of the art committee, and everybody has their own parochial views of their schools in their area. But basically, it came down to 3 scenarios. Close all 3 schools and build a new one, close 2 of the schools and consolidate 1 into the remaining site. And C was to close Fort Erie and Ridgeway, consolidate them into a new one, and Port Colborne be left untouched at this time for consideration at a future ARC. If you looked at the report that I sent off to you, I sent you a few things. On page 208 of the report here of our council package, from 2002 to 2011, $7.6 million was spent in the Fort Erie School. Port Colborne got 3.4 of that, and 1.2 for the Ridgeway Crystal Beach. The 10-year forecast, what they're saying in the 10 years, how much they're going to be spending. Of course, the Fort Erie amount is a lot less because they've already spent money. Port Colborne goes up to 7.2 million, and Ridgeway Crystal Beach 4.6. It all came down, like, we've had a chance to go through all the schools. We've had a chance really to listen to the public, which is really great. And clearly, each school had a significant value to the student. We had students come and say, how much that school meant to them and where they were now in their, some were already into university, some were taking, one was taking, she was a doctor, going in to be a doctor. We had one coming in, they were in pharmacy, going into pharmacy. And so all of them explained the value of the school to them. When it came right down to it at our last meeting, I wrote this prior to our public meeting on the 7th. And the school, all the schools are used more, especially Port Colborne. It's used for more than just high school students. There are many non-high school programs and community use of the building that make it a valuable part of our city. And there are over 160 high school students from Waynfleet, 160, that currently go to E.L. Crosley. So we feel that the boundaries for this should be reviewed, but that that's up for future consideration, I guess, at another ARC committee. Respectfully, I'm asking council to support my view on this, and that is to support scenario C, close Fort Erie and Ridgeway and consolidate that into a new one and leave Port Colborne untouched at the time to be considered at a future date. I would support B only if Port Colborne is the school of choice. So in other words, if you're going to close all the schools and put all the students in one, I would, of course, want that school to be Port Colborne. But I will await comments from other councillors and tell me how they feel. But I've had the pleasure of being on this committee with our CAO, who represents the chamber. And we've had, him and I have had opportunity many times to speak about how we feel about this particular scenario. So I just want to read to the rest of council. I got this from the mayor after he received my memo. And he just says, agree with Councillor Kenny. However, my concern is that this direction may result in less enrollment with the Niagara South public system, resulting in further public secondary school closures.
Councillor, if I may, I can deal with that.
Oh, you want to
Yeah,
say that?
I can
Okay.
deal with that.
All right. So anyways, he was the only one that I got a response from. The rest I didn't. But I have some issues. I still have some concerns. But right now, from all the public that we heard from on the 7th, everyone that got up and spoke, though they talked about how wonderful it was where they received their education, they supported C. And they believe that should, Port Colborne should be left for another time. And even said that they didn't know why Port Colborne wasn't included in it at all. So it's really up to council. You've had an opportunity to read my report and certainly make your conclusion from there. But that's how I see it at this present time. And we still have another public meeting. We have, I think, another 2 meetings with just the ARC committee. But just bear in mind that this is just how I feel, that we still have not made a total full report yet to the board, because ultimately the board makes the final decision. They make the final decision. We're going to make a recommendation to them, but in the end, it's the board that decides how they're going to go. But you know, all 3 schools need work, and you know, each one is tired in some degree or another, as the report says. But to date, that's how I feel, and I certainly would appreciate anybody's councillors' input as how they feel on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Elliott?
Just one quick question to Councillor Kenny, and I would for sure support C. That being said, if they follow through on C, and you say that there's another accommodation review coming down the road for us, who do we get grouped in on the next one?
Welland.
Yes, that's who we'll be grouped in with. It'll be a north-south grouping, and I have concerns, very much so. Counselor, I have a great concern that, you know how they say the bigger one swallows up. And that's really my biggest concern if we're left for another ARC review. But also, while this all goes on, there's still lots of work that has to be done. And I just want to, before I make a final decision, I want to know if the school board is going to complete the capital work that's necessary at a school. Because if you leave it go and it gets tired, very easy for them to say at the end, it's so tired, you know, we can't put any more money into it. So they have said that there's a need for capital work, and that was one of my concerns that I said to them. I really want to know how much you're going to do over the next few years, especially on the electrical systems. And, you know, really we don't have much influence on how they spend their money, but I do want the District School Board of Niagara to include a commitment to us in Port Colborne if that's the scenario they follow. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments, members of council? Well, I too had a meeting with the board chair and the Mr. Hathaway, Cam Hathaway, I believe is one of the superintendents, as well as our local trustee, Dave Schabel. And to say the very least, it was a very interesting meeting. I'll leave it at that. However, I think, Councillor Elliott, you hit the nail on the head with respect to your question, and a good question it was. Because although recommendation C is good for the city of Port Colborne today, my concern is the city of Port Colborne tomorrow. And although I agree with Councillor Kenny in the recommendations she's putting forward with respect to the options that were presented to her, my concern is that this direction may result in less enrollment within Niagara South's public school system, resulting in further public secondary school closures. And that being because, and it was very, it was stated during the meeting by the representatives from the District School Board of Niagara that in fact this is not the end of an accommodation. This is not the end for an accommodations review for the city of Port Colborne. This is just simply a stay. I'll use that word. And although it might deal with Fort Erie, it will resurface in 2 years, whereby we will then be lumped in and brought into another accommodations review with now the city of Welland. That's concerning. And with that, and again, what's concerning is that obviously the direction that they may take forward may be alleviated by some strategies that, for example, the Catholic Board put in place that was very successful. And I think that's proof positive with respect to that very strategy that they took. So therefore, I will ask Councillor Kenny and members of council to consider putting forward an additional option. And we as a council, as a community, offer another option that essentially offers to the board a partnership, as we have accrued over time with the Catholic Board, essentially creating a more robust campus type secondary school like Lakeshore has been able to build, along with an opportunity to offer more additional, or to offer additional academic and sport opportunities for their students, which ultimately was articulated to me to be their desire, and for the very reason of why they've embarked on the accommodations review committee structure, was to, and I quote, offer, and I'm reading from my notes from the meeting, offer additional academic opportunities for our students. Because quite frankly, right now, at the size of those schools, it's very difficult for them to offer courses in comparison to other schools that are a bit larger. And a lot of that has to do with the funding per student that the ministry offers them. But as well, sport opportunities for the students, and again, as we see in other high schools locally. So with that said, I would like to suggest council adds an amendment to Councillor Kenny's motion that includes the offering of land not different than what we did with the Catholic Board. And that can be next to the Valley Health and Wellness Center. It can be actually right across the street. It can be next door for the construction of a new public secondary school. And if, and I say if, this becomes an opportunity, that in fact we ask staff to work in partnership with the District School Board of Niagara to discuss that and solidify an arrangement and come back to council for consideration. And I believe by locating a new public school here in the city of Port Colborne today, it will maintain, if not enhance, and this is the key part, folks. Look at the numbers today, and look at the numbers in 5 years after decisions are made. Look at the enrollment numbers today. I believe the enrollment numbers for South Niagara is 1,000 in the public school board between the 3 high schools. And look at the enrollment numbers in 5 years if the wrong decision is made. We talked about performance measures. There's performance measures, which I am sure they would be very interested in particular the ministry would be very interested in. So I believe that by locating the new public school in Port Colborne, it will maintain, if not enhance, enrollment in public education in Southern Niagara. And I believe, folks, that Lakeshore Catholic is proof of that success. They were deliberate on where they located that school, and that school has seen nothing but growth since. And I think the public school has that same opportunity if the right decision is made. It's not our decision, and I do congratulate you, B. You and Bob, great job. And all the folks that were involved, including both staff and the public, and there's many ideas I'm sure you've tossed out there. I haven't been a part of those meetings. All I'm trying to do is help the process by offering another option. Fort Erie's, and I don't want to get in Fort Erie's way because they may offer the same option. And this is not a parochial thing. This is business. This is business. And this is what I said to the board members of council when I met with the board, not the board, but the 3 representatives. The business is, if in fact you're looking at sincerely maintaining or enhancing their enrollment, as well as attaching as a desire, as a priority, the offering of additional and enhanced academic and sport opportunities for their students, then I personally believe this is something that they should consider. Is it the right move? Let's go down that road and find out if it's the right move. But at the very least, let's offer that as an option, as an amendment to your option, and at the very least, give them that opportunity to give it full consideration. So I would offer that up to members of council, if a member of council would be kind enough to offer it up as an amendment. Councillor Kennedy, I'll get the floor to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want you to know that Fort Erie's already thought of that. They have the
I'm
land.
sure they have. I wouldn't have expected anything less.
Mr. Friedland, when he gave them the land for their city hall and for their wellness center, and that's what they kept emphasizing, that it will go across the road, right there beside it. And they said, and I quote, we'll offer hockey, we'll offer swimming, and we will offer golf across the road. So they were mentioning all those things to, as you said, to enhance the wellness of a student too, to keep them active. So, but certainly, Your Worship, it's councilor's pleasure. Council appointed me to this board, to this ARC committee, and like I said, with Bob, Mr. Heil, sitting right beside me and us listening to many hours of discussion from all members and from the public, which is really important because the public, it's all with the heart. They think like that, but when it comes right down to it, it's going to be a financial decision by the board. So certainly, Your Worship, if the rest of the members of council want to make that motion forward, I will add that to mine before submitting it, but please bear in mind that we still have one more, I believe it's one more or 2 more public meetings. Is that correct, Bob? 1 more public and 1 more ARC?
Mr. Howe?
I just can't remember.
I think it's one of each.
Yeah, one of each, okay. There we go. Before a final recommendation will be given to the board. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So are you making that motion for amendment?
If the council so wishes that, yes, I will make that amendment.
I need
I
to
will
get-
make that motion.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Desmarais? Do you have any comments or questions to that? With none, Counselor, when you take that, if this gets passed tonight, the only thing that I would add to my comments from earlier is, and I know it becomes a parochial thing, and I don't envy the discussion that you guys have around the table. But at the end of the day, I think the bottom line is about business and the funding that the public board would otherwise expect to receive based on the students at the enrollment that they have in these schools. And once again, my concern is that if the wrong decision is made, a lot of the otherwise public school enrollment that you would have are going to migrate. They're going to migrate. And if the wrong decision is made, they may not migrate to the same board. That's my concern. And therefore, we have to keep very close watch on the numbers that you have today. And I know it's a bit of speculation, but take into consideration the numbers that you would have tomorrow based on the possibility of migration. And I think you have two areas that you're migrating from, but you only have one area that you can migrate to. So I think it becomes a lot easier to make that decision. And I'm hoping that those folks that are making that decision make the right one. Otherwise, we may see public school here in South Niagara start to disappear, especially here in Port Colborne and this part of South Niagara. So, Councillor Elliott.
One quick question. Do we have any idea what the forecast for the Catholic School Board is for Lakeshore Catholic in the next 10 years? Have they ever come up with those stats?
To answer that, it'd be difficult to answer that question because I don't have the answer in front of me and I don't want to speculate. But I do know that the forecast for Port Colborne High School is dropping. And therefore, and hence the reason why they would be involved in another arc in 2 years. So I think for those that are watching and those that are listening, the concern's obvious as it relates to Port Colborne High School as well as public education for South Niagara. There's the numbers, folks. When you look at the numbers, and when you look at Port Colborne High School, they're forecasting by the year 2015 that Port Colborne High School will go down to 468, and then 2017, 397, and then 2022, 301. Once you go, I'm told that once you go below 400, you're on the hook. Now, if we get into an accommodations review with the City of Welland, it's not too hard to speculate. That's my concern. So I'm looking at a more appropriate decision be made today versus them squeezing us out tomorrow. And I think there's some deliberacy. Is that a word? It is now. I think it's deliberate that some of these recommendations are being made. So make no mistake about that. We got to keep an eye on this, guys. Okay? So with that, no further questions or comments. All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on. Great job, by the way, B, if I haven't said it already. I know it's a tough one, especially when you're looking at jurisdictions. Okay, we're looking at item 14. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you once again, Your Worship. Shirks and Shores, a request for permission to hold weekly fireworks display events for 2013. Pursuant to Section 5.11 Bylaw 49894507, the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne authorized Shirks and Shore to hold display fireworks events on the following dates. Saturday, June 15th. These are all Saturdays, Your Worship. Saturday, June 15th, June 22nd, June 29th, July the 6th, July the 13th, July 20th, July 27th, August 3rd, August 10th, August 17th, August 24th, and August 31st. That such approval be conditional on the issuance of a permit by the fire chief in compliance with bylaw 49894507 and the payment of applicable fees. That the following information be submitted to the Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Services for review a minimum of 2 weeks prior to holding the first event. That the fireworks site plan include, but not limited to, separation distances to the public and vulnerable areas, location from where fireworks are being fired, fallout zone and direction of the firing, information concerning the floating platform from which the fireworks are to be fired, including the size of the platform, event description, information including of fireworks type, size, and quantity, and including filing procedures, manual or electronic, emergency procedures, and traffic control plans. That Shirks and Shores be advised that it is the authority having jurisdiction, Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Services will conduct spot site inspections and may revoke approval for any violation of the Ontario Fire Code or the Explosives Act prior or during any one of the scheduled events.
You okay? Take a breath now, B. Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Mover and seconder, we got a mover and seconder. Councillor Elliott, that does note the conflict. Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members. And that exhausts the items this evening. Great job, everyone. With that, I will ask for any notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion, members? With none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Doucette, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to our regular meeting of council, and I will ask the clerk if she has any addendum items. Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there is an addendum item for the council in camera meeting this evening, and it is that confidential Chief Administrative Officer Health Services Report number 2013-01 regarding continued development of primary health care model pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239, bracket 2, bracket B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
That one gets me all the time, too, Annette. Thank you, Annette. Members of council, are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Bodnar and Councillor Elliott.
Item 14, Mr. Mayor, as I run a business inside Shirks and Shores.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elliott.
In camera, item A is I have a pecuniary interest as I represent the company in negotiations for real estate.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Any further disclosures, members? With nothing further, I do have two sets of minutes. The adoption of the minutes, I will do them in block if you don't mind. The first set being the minutes of the second meeting regular special of council dated January 21st, 2013. And the second set of minutes being the minutes of the third meeting regular of council dated January 28th, 2013. Councillor Desmarais moves it. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Doucette, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Items requiring a separate discussion. Councillor Kenny, if you want to lift item 14.
Your Worship, I will lift up 14 and hopefully do not have to read it again.
I think all those watching the COGECO as well as here in the gallery understand exactly what you were saying. I'll ask for a seconder, please. Councillor Danch. Okay. Councillor Kenny, you're good. So we'll leave it at that. You're good. That would be for everybody's information, the long, drawn-out motion that Councillor Kenny read about 10 minutes ago. And that's the one she's moving, and that's based on the conflict that Councillor Bodnar has declared. So with that, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to proclamations. I do have one proclamation, members, and I will be looking for a mover and seconder. That whereas Epilepsy Niagara's mission is to improve the quality of life for people living with epilepsy and or affected by epilepsy throughout the Niagara region. Within Niagara, approximately 5,000 people are living with epilepsy or a seizure disorder. And whereas there is a stigma associated with the condition of epilepsy, one of which we would like to erase. By increasing public awareness, Epilepsy Niagara will be educating the community to understand and accept those who suffer from epilepsy. And whereas this year's March Awareness campaign is extra special as March 26th, known as Purple Day for Epilepsy, has been voted in as law in Parliament and is now recognized as an official day that is dedicated to raising awareness about epilepsy. And whereas Purple Day was an idea that started 4 years ago by Cassidy, a 9-year-old girl from Nova Scotia that has epilepsy, who has decided that there should be one special day each year so that those who suffer from seizures would not feel alone. And whereas on March 26th, community members are encouraged to wear purple, all in our effort to create epilepsy awareness. The many people living with epilepsy in the Niagara region and around the world will thank you for showing them your support. Now therefore, I, Mayor Van Sam Badaway, proclaim March as Epilepsy Awareness Month here in the city of Port Colborne. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Butters. I thank both for moving. I do have a very close friend, as well as I'm sure many of you have a close friend that has epilepsy. And quite frankly, to be aware about not only the condition, but to do when their seizures happen is key. Actually, my friend actually carries a little card on him. And basically lets people know that the card's there, so that therefore when something does happen, people know how to react, because a lot of times people don't know how to react. So by all means, for those folks watching on COGECO and those in the gallery, take it very seriously to not only be aware, but also to recognize the needs that may occur if something happens when you're close by, because those folks may in fact, or will in fact, need you to help them along when those seizures do occur. So with that, it has been moved and seconded. Your pleasure, members. All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried unanimously. Oh, yes, thank you. Members of council, I'm now going to move on to the adoption of the council items not requiring a separate discussion. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Bodner. All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Notice of motion. Any notices of motion this evening, members? Madam Clerk, the introduction of the bylaws.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw number 5910-17/13, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1150-97/81, and is amended respecting lands known as Concession 1, part of lots 31, 32, and 33, described as Part 1, 9, 10, and 14 on Plan 59R-8019 in the city of Port Colborne, located on the south side of Kalali Street West, Rosemont Estates. Bylaw number 5911/18/13, being a bylaw to authorize entering into contract agreement with the City of St. Catharines for fire dispatch services. Bylaw 5912/19/13, being a bylaw to authorize entering into a contract agreement with King Contractors of Niagara Limited for the design and build of a pole barn at TA Landing Complex, respecting quotation 2012-26. Bylaw 5913/20/13, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1150-97/81, and is amended respecting parts 1 and 2, Plan 59R-12972, parts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, Plan 30R-11687, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, Plan 59R-13924 in the city of Port Colborne, known as the west side of Mellenby Avenue, Old Humberston Village. Bylaw 591421/13, being a bylaw to designate a site plan control area and delegate council's power under Section 41 of the Planning Act, RSO CP 13, establishing a site plan control procedure and the duties of the Director of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Butters. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Madam Clerk, confirmatory bylaw, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 5915/22/13, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting of February the 11th, 2013.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of council, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Before I entertain a motion to go into closed session, members of council, I will announce our next meetings. Where's my piece of paper here? We do have our next meeting, which will be tomorrow, February 12th. We have a special meeting of council that is to deal with the NION planning issues. And by all means, for those that are watching, if you're watching it right now, it's happening right now. So get over here. But once again, Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. here in the chamber, a special meeting of council. Following that, we will have a meeting on the 25th, Monday, Committee of the Whole and Council, beginning at 6:30 p.m., and I will apologize and send my regrets in advance. Your Deputy Mayor, Councillor Elliott, will be hosting that meeting. Will be, pardon me. Councillor Elliott will be presiding over that meeting. As members of council do recognize, I will be going in for a knee replacement, knee surgery on the 20th, and they're telling me I won't be back, even though I'm going to try to be. The medical professionals are telling me that I will not be back by the 25th. So, with or maybe for good. No, I'm just kidding. I know Councillor Danch would love that, but sorry, Frank, it ain't going to happen. But for the most part, I do send my regrets. Now, having said that, the following day as well, February 26th, once again here in the chamber, beginning at 5:30, we will have budget. So, members of council, that following day, 26th, and for those that want to be part of budget, on the 26th, once again here in the chamber, beginning at 5:30 p.m., we'll be continuing our budget deliberations. So, with that, members of council, I will now move, or ask for a motion to move into closed session to deal with a few items. A confidential memorandum from the Director of Planning and Development Services dated February 4th, 2013, concerning a potential disposition of land, of city-owned land, pursuant to the Municipal Act, excuse me, 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or our local board. B, confidential report 2013-2003 from the Manager of Special Projects and Corporate Strategic Initiatives concerning the operation of Sugarloaf Marina pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392A, the security of the property of the municipality or local board, and 2392B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And finally, confidential report number 2013-02 from the Manager of Special Project and Corporate Strategic Initiatives concerning the agreements with respect to the Port Colborne Grain Elevator pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392A, the security of the property of the municipality or local board. Pardon me? What's D? Where's the addendum? That's all right, and I got it on the screen here. We do have an addendum. Item D, confidential Chief Administrative Officer, Health Services Report number 2013-01 regarding the continued development of primary health care model, that would be the IPC, pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. So with that, members of council, thanks, Annette. With that, members of council, I need a motion to go into closed session to deal with those very issues. Moved by Councillor Desmarais, seconded by Councillor Bodner. And with that, your pleasure. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. To members of the public, have a wonderful week, and we very much look forward to seeing you over the Sports Fest weekend, as well as the community celebration, which is going to be the grand opening of the Valley Health and Wellness Center. Have a great week.